This is John Jackson Miller, and you're listening to the Star Wars Canon Podcast. May the Force be with you.
There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Star Wars Canon Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Miller, and I'm so glad that you've decided to join me to talk about our favorite thing in the world yet again, Star Wars. Joining me this episode on this glorious May 4th from across the pond is my good friend and co-host, Mr. Usef Waly. How are you doing tonight, brother?
I'm very, very good. Thank you, Brian, for the lovely intro. And I hope you're doing well. This is a great May the 4th, isn't it?
It is. It's been a great one so far, except for technology not working. That's a little annoying.
Well, yeah,
But
we would have loved to have been live at this moment. But yeah, I think that I'm bad luck. Trying to do
no.
too many things at once. One of them being me all the way thousands of miles away, at least two servers away, at least,
Two
right?
servers
That is part of it, isn't it? And I do thank you for making the absolute effort every single time, and it's at my expense, for our viewers. And I just want to make sure that hopefully we still deliver good content. And live would have been amazing, obviously, but yes, okay, we're in it now, and I'm excited to talk Star Wars.
Same, man. Yeah, for some reason we were just getting ready to hit the live button. We were ready to go. Like, we had the stream set
Just
up,
like
and
last
then
time.
for some reason, like YouTube just decided, yeah, not today. Not happening. And you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, we do have some severe weather kind of coming through here in Kansas. So that might,
Right.
now at least it's coming. So maybe, I don't know if that has anything to do, I don't know. Maybe there's a solar flare or I don't know. But anyway, here we are. We're just going to record it, and we'll put it up later as soon as we're done. So, guys, this is May 4th. Like Usef said, we finally made it to Star Wars Day. We got some cool stuff. Star Wars Visions came out today, Volume 2 on Disney Plus. We got I think like 7 or 8 comic issues came out today. So it's been a pretty cool Star Wars Day, and got my Star Wars shirt on. And, I got everybody at work to wear Star Wars shirts today also. They all wore Star Wars shirts.
Oh, that's
And
cool. I
so,
got my
yeah,
Grogu shirt on, and I had my Mando socks on all day today for work.
your
So
Mando
yeah, I love those.
socks.
Oh, I love my Mando
This is the
socks.
way.
They're fantastic.
This is the
This is
way.
the way.
So,
They're gray too, so they work well with my suit, so it's good.
like Beskar gray?
Actually, so it's more like a shiny silvery gray. So it's not Beskar because Beskar is more matte than shiny.
Oh, yeah,
So
okay,
it's
you're
pretty
right.
cool.
You're right.
I love Beskar. It's beautiful. Are you kidding? Love that.
Speaking of
Which we have a
Beskar,
question on, by the way.
oh,
But
we
yeah.
do. We
Anyway.
do. Speaking
Yes,
of
we do.
speaking
Yes,
of
we do.
Beskar, that is one of the medals I've got on my Jedi Survivor lightsaber now. I found Beskar, and it's one of the accent colors. I love it. Looks so cool.
Listen, you know what would be like proper Star Wars to life advice? So hopefully I'm going to be doing up my car next coming year.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to get a fresh coat of paint. What if I wanted my car to be Beskar?
Yes.
Which color, like what code of color? Do you know what I mean? Like on the
Ooh.
spectrum, what code do I get? So we're going to have to look this up together, you and me. And we're going to have
We're
to
gonna have
try
to
this
find
out.
out.
Maybe we're going to have to see a few bikes or cars that have done this sort of shade and then see what's going on. This is amazing. Damn. Okay, my car is officially going to be Beskar. Done.
Yes. And you'll have to. Oh man. You'll have to.
I'll have
What's
to
the name?
imprint
What was
yeah,
Mando's ship's name?
the Razor Crest.
The Razor Crest. Yes, you're gonna have to call it the Razor Crest. Yeah, you guys are yelling at me. I know you guys are.
Boom.
You're gonna have to call your car the
Boom,
Razor
boom, boom.
Razor
And
Crest.
so the car, if anybody wants to find out it's a Mercedes GLK 2010. So it's about 12, 13 years old. I started driving that thing in October 2010. I love that car. I've had 2 crashes in that thing. It's amazing. It saved my life twice. I love it to death. I've redone the transmission, and the engine is going about 300,000 kilometers per hour. I'm not sure how many miles that is. Might be like 200,000 miles. Not sure. Anyway, yeah, it's like
Sounds
yeah,
like it's
I
already
love
made a
that
best
thing.
car. Sounds like it's made it this far.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point, good sir. But
What?
now, so it's all black so far, but I want to do it a best car. That makes so much more sense.
Yes,
Boom, let's do that. Yeah,
Boom.
100%. And get the
Yes.
Star Wars Canon Podcast logos on there, all over there, on the
I
rims
don't know
and
about
on
all
the
that.
sides.
On the
I'm gonna do
rims,
it
that
anyway,
looks
regardless.
sweet, dude.
Are you
So
kidding? Like, definitely done deal. No job.
well, anyway, happy Star Wars Day to everybody out there. We hope you guys had a really good one. I'm probably gonna fall asleep tonight watching one of my favorite Star Wars movies. And you know, I drove to work this morning and I was jamming out to I don't know if you guys have ever heard this song, Usef. If you haven't, I'm gonna have to send it to you because you're gonna love it. There's two. There's Weird Al's "The Saga Begins." It's a whole song. It's a parody to oh man. What's the I drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. I can't think of the name of the song right now. But anyway,
American Pie.
yes, thank you. It's a yes,
American
it is a
Pie.
parody
Put my Chevy
to American Pie, and it is all about Episode 1. It's the story of Episode 1 by Weird Al. It's awesome. And then the other one is it's not really safe for family. It's not safe for work, so be careful who's around you when you listen to this one. But it's Fet's Vet by MC Chris. Awesome song.
Okay.
It's a rap song.
Nice.
And I don't like rap, but this song, yeah, it's awesome. So I was celebrated by driving to work, just jamming out all morning and to Star Wars
Sometimes
songs.
I astound myself that I am not American. How can I know that song is the American Pie?
Yeah, you knew it over me. I'm
and
embarrassed.
I am over here. I haven't said it. I've barely spent more than 6 weeks, 7 weeks on U.S. soil in my entire life, and yet I know that. Anyway, yeah.
So, like I said, I hope you guys had a really good Star Wars day. Man, let's get into some of the stuff we wanted to talk about. You brought up this morning. So, before we get into this morning, Usef and I had a video call over Messenger. I was on my way to work. It was like late afternoon, early afternoon for you. And Usef was eating lunch at a restaurant under the pyramids, and I was so jealous. I was just like, "You got to be kidding me!"
I swear it was coincidence. I fucking swear. Like I don't even do this. It wasn't on purpose. I kid you not. It was not intentional at all. It was just the way it happened.
I was so mad.
So I've got business friends coming over from Canada, and you got to treat them well. So
Right.
There's a new restaurant opened up a few months ago, maybe like since October, so many months ago, 7 months ago, by the pyramids, just at the foot of those things. It is outstanding.
I'm
the
jealous.
Location, boom. So you have to pay the full price of the ticket and everything to get in, like the full ticket price for the pyramids. Of course I'm paying that, no problem whatsoever. And then you go there, you drive up with your car, you pay an extra ticket thing for your car, go to the pyramids. Boom, you're right there. It is outstanding.
I'm jealous.
Like if you saw, you were like staggered, right? I was staggered being there in person, and I fucking live in this country. It's amazing. It's so good just having lunch, just chilling.
Yeah.
And there's no like tourist guides or somebody with a camel coming over begging you to come over and have a ride on the camel, and then you gotta pay a rent for the camel or the horse or the carriage or the cart or whatever it is, which is cool. It's very fun, by the way. And you're gonna do it regardless. You know, if you come to the pyramids, you're gonna get a camel ride. But yeah, these dudes just hang around with camels all day, trying to get you to ride a camel and maybe overpay or something.
Oh my God.
But so you go and you're just chilling there, having a really good quality. Good food, by the way, like really good. I enjoyed the food. It wasn't amazing. Like I can cook better at home, but it was still as good a restaurant as you can get for Egyptian food.
Right.
And it was really good. Yummy stuff.
So yeah,
but yes. That was the call
so,
this morning.
Yeah,
I'm
we had
sorry
this call this morning.
To digress.
No, you're good. No, we derail a lot. So no, we had this call this morning, and we were kind of talking about what we wanted to talk about on the podcast, you know, for tonight, and you know, since it was Star Wars Day and everything. And we decided we were going to talk a little bit about Jedi Fallen Order and kind of do a little bit of a recap on it and kind of give our thoughts on that. And Usef and I are both working on Survivor right now, so figured we would kind of talk about no spoilers, obviously, because this game is chock full of spoilers. There's a lot of spoilers in this game. I'm like 6 hours in, and there's already a crap load of spoilers in this game. So no spoilers, but thought maybe we'd give our thoughts on it and kind of see where we think the franchise is going to end up going. So, Usef, you played Fallen Order. It's hard to believe
Twice.
that game twice. I think I've played it 3 or 4.
Yeah.
The game came out like 4 years ago. It doesn't feel like it. It came out in 2019 before The Rise of Skywalker.
Absolutely doesn't feel like it. It's
At
aged
all.
well.
It has. It's aged very well.
Yeah.
And so when you played Fallen Order, what were some of the things that you took away from the game that you really enjoyed? I know you're a big villain guy, and there was more than one villain in this game in the first game.
100%.
And so
100%, yeah.
kind of what were your thoughts on the first one? And before we start talking about where we're at in Survivor, what are some of the things you were kind of expecting out of Survivor?
Sure. Yeah. That's a great point to bring up, like the villain bit and what do you enjoy out of it. For me, so firstly, I'm a huge RPG fan. I personally do not. I don't really have a lot of fun playing MMO RPGs, so multiplayer and online multiplayer and things like that. It's just not my thing. It's great. I see the fun in it. I don't want to participate in it every other weekend. When I played Fallen Order, it was fantastic because, firstly, not only is it a Star Wars game, let's put that aside. The fact that we're getting a Star Wars game gets us even more happy. Okay, let's put that aside. Let's judge it. Try to be as objective as we can. The feeling of playing, a sword play game like The Witcher, like this, like that, obviously that's really high company, really strong company. But if you are feeling the fluidity of deflecting blasters using a lightsaber, it was really fluid and it felt so okay. Like, oh, this is great. Like, I should have been doing this a long time ago. And it felt so normal, not buggy, no issues. That was great. It felt great to play. Then story-wise, oh my God, fantastic. Many villains, not one, not two, but 3 different villains apart from Vader. So the Inquisitors, and then you've also got a very specific Inquisitor known as Trilla, who has a story built in with Seer. And then you have the Jedi turned sort of evil on his own. He's not Sith, he's just something else, which you meet on Dathomir. That was so cool. So all 3 of these guys offer you a different vision to look into. So that expands my character view of Cal Kestis. That expands what the Jedi Order and Sith have been up to post Order 66. That expands so much, not just in terms of story, but let's focus more on the game. It offers me a different avenue of, like, I'm experiencing a real game here. I'm looking at villains. I'm looking at a universe where I can get more and more sort of views, which are, like when you're in a game for a specific universe, but you're actually looking at it just through the lens of the game. So you're experiencing it fully. And then you get out of the game and you're like, oh, okay, so that actually contributes to the universe. That's very unique and that's very cool. And that's what we got from Fallen Order. It's such a good vibe and it's such a good positive. We may not have touched on this a lot back then, but I'm really feeling the positive vibes from it now, especially with this new game. Because I'm going in with this with very high expectations. And so far, I am not disappointed. And the way the spoilers are looking, and I've already gotten a few from what I have coming ahead of me, I am excited for what I have looking forward. I am not disappointed, not in the slightest. It's not like Red Wedding Game of Thrones sort of thing where I just got wiped out. Like, I was like, okay, I know what's going to happen, so there's no point for me to watch the season. This is the complete opposite of that. I can't wait to finish this game.
I'm right there with you, man. And so,
yeah, right?
So, like,
what did you think of Fallen Order first? Are you with me in this? Like,
yes.
Sort of objectively speaking, it expands how you look at a game and then contribute to Star Wars.
Yes.
Or am I?
No, you're not crazy. What I liked the most about Fallen Order, one of the things I liked the most about Fallen Order was that it was its own kind of self-contained story. It really didn't rely on a whole lot of other. Yes, Vader popped up at the end, and it was the most glorious thing ever, running away from Darth Vader. But it didn't depend on legacy characters to make it good. It stood on its own. It actually earned its place on the Star Wars timeline as a great story, not just a video game, but a great story, like you were saying. And there were aspects of, the characters that end up making up your crew between Grease and Seer and Marin and BD. and even Cal himself
Oh,
is
BD's
such
amazing,
it's
isn't he?
such a diverse
Like,
it's such a diverse group too. And you know, who would have thought that a Jedi would have ended up traveling with a Dathomir witch? You know what I mean?
Right.
And
absolutely, 100%.
so cool.
100%.
And the dynamic
Absolutely.
worked. It worked really well, especially kind of moving into the second game, right? Like some of the things that happened with the second game. And so I really liked the first one a lot. Like you said, you know, the antagonists were great. The dark, I hesitate to say dark Jedi, but
I understand. Yeah,
the dark force
Fallen
user
Jedi.
on the fallen Jedi on Dathomir.
Yeah.
That was a nice little surprise. You know, you're leery of him when you first meet him because he's like the hooded, you know, what are you doing on Dathomir?
Oh my God, going on to Ilum.
Yes. Oh,
Experiencing
Ilum was
Ilum.
so cool. Going into the
Just as a
actual cave.
vibe.
Yeah.
I know we don't do much, but just as a vibe, experiencing Ilum
Yeah.
and being part of that canon, so good, so good.
Yes. And seeing the same kind of chamber where Yoda takes the younglings in Clone Wars, you know what I mean? That
Yeah.
same, and
Yep.
so
I know what you
it
mean.
was so cool. You know, it was just really great. One of the things that I didn't enjoy about the game, though, I'll say this, and it's stupid. It's so stupid. Is every time you would finish a mission, like you would like Zepho. Everybody complains about getting lost on Zepho all the time, and they're not wrong. But when you would get done with a mission, and then it's like return to the Mantis, and you have to backtrack the entire way, all the way back through everything you just fought through to get back to the Mantis. That was the only thing where I was like, okay, I get it, but I really enjoyed the first game a lot. It's it's not my favorite Star Wars game ever, but it is up there. There's some non-canon games that really it's going to be hard to dethrone. Some Knights of the Old Republic, some Jedi Outcast.
Okay, so you
It's gonna be
say
really
that,
hard.
but now I'm going to stop you and ask you this question: what is your favorite Star Wars game, Mr. Miller?
I really like the first Knights of the Old Republic, but I'm a huge Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast fan. Kyle Katarn,
Very cool.
and yeah, 'cause I absolutely love that whole Dark Forces storyline, where they went from Dark Forces to Jedi Knight to Jedi Knight 2 to Jedi Academy. That was an awesome storyline. Kyle Katarn is one of my favorite Legends characters ever. I'm hoping to God that they bring him into canon. He deserves to be in canon. So yeah, I'm going to go with Outcast as my favorite. And what's kind of cool is Fallen Order has taken some aspects from that. Some of the lightsaber battles and some of the lightsaber dueling has been kind of upgraded a little bit and brought in. So it's really, really cool to see those little elements in these new games. Now,
Fantastic.
going into Survivor, so tell me if I'm wrong on this. I want to hear your opinion on this. I feel like Survivor took Jedi Fallen Order and made a list of everything that worked and made it better, and then they took everything that didn't work and made it work. And so they've
so far, exactly.
They've
So
added
far,
so
exactly.
much stuff. They've expanded on things that worked. And one of the things I really liked was
There's
that
fast travel.
Yes.
There's a lot of
Creatures-
other stuff
creature
I don't wanna
mounts,
mention,
like-
just that. Creature mounts.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Creature
so
mounts.
awesome. And
Yeah.
what I really
Customization is
oh
more
god, it's
intricate.
wild. Have you seen Cal
Exactly.
Cletus? Have you seen this Cal Cletus character? He's got the
I have,
mullet
I
and the
have.
freaking like Fu Manchu, and he's all red,
Exactly.
white, and blue.
Yes.
Even the lightsaber's all red, white, and blue. BD's all red, white, and blue, and
Loved them.
it's awesome. So yeah, the customization is wild in this game. But one of the things I liked was they didn't give Cal amnesia between games, where he had to relearn all of his skills again between
You just
games.
zoom.
You just
keep
knew,
Going. You just keep going.
like using
and
BD.
it's kind of hard, by the way, but it's worth it. So it's good.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's not too hard. So the enemies are quite balanced out. So you don't have to. You're not losing every single fight.
Right.
You're getting used to it, and it gives you a chance to make up ground. And then this thing, by the way, I'm not sure where this game got this concept to begin with, because it's not a Dark Souls thing either. The fact that when you get killed by an enemy, and then you go and kill that enemy, you have to look for that specific enemy, and then you take them out,
Right.
and then you restore all of your XP and your life and all that, and your
Right.
health, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure where they got that exactly. It's quite a cool concept, though. I understand. Like, it adds that sort of video gamey, arcadey-ish a little
Right.
bit. Yeah, no, I like that. I like that they kept it. I wasn't a fan of it in the last game, but I actually like that they kept
It
it.
could-
Does that make sense?
It could get
It
annoying
sounds
in the
silly
first
for
game.
me as a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It got
exactly.
annoying in the first game,
Yes.
especially when it's Ogdo Bogdo. on Bogano, and you're just
Oh
like,
my
oh my God, the stupid frog. Like, Jesus Christ.
Biggest tongue in history. Like
one of the trophies on the game was to cut that tongue off when it
Right,
launches it at you.
exactly,
Yeah,
it
and it was
was.
so annoying.
So
So
let me.
annoying.
I'll share this. I'll screenshot this for you because I'm not sure if you remember this. I 100%ed last game, Fallen Order. 100% of it.
See, I haven't. I
Loved
need
it.
to.
I love. You do not need to, not by any chance, because it's kind of tedious. So
Is
you
it?
got to do so much, like Zepho, like all those planes. You got to go, keep going. So you think Zepho is bad to go 100%? Try Dathomir. Oh my God, there's like a maze
Dathomir
in
was
there in the
was a
last.
maze to
It,
navigate.
there's like that last 20% of the map, the furthest part of the map, that in itself is a maze, and the entire thing is a maze.
Oh,
So
you
it's a
talking about
maze within a
like the
maze.
swampish area?
The-
The area that looks kind of like a
Yes,
swamp.
yes,
Oh
yes,
my
yes, yes, yes. That
God.
part is so deep
Yeah.
within the planet, and it's levels as well. You got to go up and jump up here, and then go down there.
Yeah.
And I was lucky, like I was following like a walkthrough on my phone and playing it on my PS5 at the same time. And then at the end of the day, I just paused the walkthrough, just started playing it myself, and I was lucky enough to finish it. And that was the last trophy I had. So that was literally how it happened for me. Yeah. No, but this is so this tedious bit, because I'm quite a completionist in
Same.
myself. If I love the game, then I want to give it its dues and experience it fully. That's what makes me want to actually 100% it. That is the reasoning behind 100%ing it. So if anybody doesn't understand why, my wife has no reason why I keep trying to 100% games. This is the reason why, because I love it so much that I want to give it its service. And sometimes when I 100% a game, like with the last God of War, not the second one, the first one, God of War
Oh yeah,
not
the kind
Ragnarok.
of rebooted when they rebooted it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the first one within the Norse mythology. When I tried to 100% it, I experienced stuff that I wouldn't have, playing the game normally. And that's so cool. And I got to see a different angle from the game. And I'm pretty sure that if I tried to do this with Survivor, I wouldn't get the same. So Survivor, actually, when you try to look at the trophies and you try to look at the story, it's not as so detailed as Fallen Order. The reason being, they saw how tedious Fallen Order was. Going back to what you said, Brian, that they saw what worked, they kept it. They saw what didn't work, they tried to tweak it. And, well, they saw what worked and they tried to improve on it even more.
Mm-hmm.
And they saw what didn't work. And what didn't work was that some bits were just too tedious. So they added fast travel in between save points,
Right.
meditation points. That in itself solves a huge issue with us feeling like it's a maze and you can't go back and forth and so on. And then you also add this bit where there's so much to explore. There's so many side quests.
Yeah.
So there's like side quests now, and they can give you these quests, these characters, and you can go off into this little chamber and figure something out and go in this cave. And I've already finished one side quest. It's not as tedious as I thought it would be, but it's very cool to experience.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not an open world. It's not. It's a little bit more linear than an open world. However, I love it. Yeah, without me ranting off too much about it, because I'm sure everybody wants to talk about other stuff. But yes, there's a lot to experience in Survivor. It's got some really good vibes. It's not fully open world. Not at all. It's quite linear, but there's big enough space for you to go around and explore stuff and be like, oh, this is cool. Oh, that's nice. That's neat. I found this chest.
Right.
And if you really want to 100% it, I'm not far along enough in the game to tell you if it's worth it or not, but I will predict that you don't have to. With Fallen Order, you kind of had to say that you did it because it was a small enough world to say, yeah, why didn't I see everything that this has got to offer? But within this one, I think it's so big, just big enough for you to say, that's okay. And these stats, they won't affect your abilities.
Right.
Right? They affect your customization, just your visuals, right?
Yeah. And so, yeah, from what I've seen so far, Survivor is, like you said, the lines aren't just like straight lines now. They have fatter spots in them where you can kind of get outside and kind of explore a little bit and kind of see what's going on outside the boundaries. You don't have to, but you can. And for some reason, I have this weird, I get a hit of dopamine every time I find a chest open. And I'm like, ooh, chest, I get to see something. I get something new. Please be a lightsaber part, And I opened one the other day and got a music track. And I was like, what? I got a
Nice.
music
I
track
know
with that?
that. Music
But it's
track. I
for
didn't get a
the
music track.
so it's for the cantina that you're kind of based in, Greasy's
Ah,
Cantina.
yeah.
So
And
it's
you
I
can
guess
have
there's a
them play different music.
jukebox or something that you can get music for and whatnot. And so the more you do, I guess the better your cantina looks on the planet. So
Fantastic.
but yeah, I was kind of surprised. And, you know, I made a joke about getting beards and hairstyles out of chests. I think last week on one of the Newsnet videos. Holy crap, I was right. You actually, like, I opened one chest and it gave me a top bun. And I was like, you get hairstyles out of
Exactly.
chests
Oh,
now?
I got that top bun.
I was like, what the heck? So I was like, what the heck, man? So I was right about that. And I get to, tonight on the Newsnet live stream, I'm going to get to claim how right I was. I get to own that one. So, but yeah, no, I'm really digging Survivor so far. Like I said, there's some huge spoilers in it. Have you? So, trying to ask this without giving anything away. Have you gotten to the point where you found like the main antagonist of the game in the back to tank?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay,
Me
so I
personally,
know
not yet.
where you're
Not yet.
at. I know where you're at then. So
Cool.
I'm not going to say
Cool.
anything. I'm not going to say anything,
Cool.
but I will say this though, because this isn't really a spoiler. This game has a lot to do with the High Republic. There is a lot of High Republic stuff.
I
in
already
this game.
I already found a character. Yeah.
The droid. You found the droid.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just in between. You see that bit, like what you said and the droid? Like I'm just in between that bit. Like,
Okay.
I'm halfway along with the droid, and I know that something. Does that make sense? I know
Yes.
that something's coming, but I haven't seen it yet.
Yes.
That game builds it up in this way. It's so good, by the way.
Yes.
And maybe I should not have paused it at the position where I am.
Usually I
Maybe that's
complete a
fine.
whole planet and then I stop for the night and then I
Completely
Yeah.
agree. It was just the way my schedule had worked itself that way.
But this game is focusing really heavily on High Republic. There's a lot of High Republic in this game, and I'm loving it. Between seeing some of the characters and seeing some of the technology and exploring some of the
Stylistically,
chamber
so
of
cool.
duality. Yeah, like it was so cool seeing this stuff. And later on in the game, you can get a cross guard for your lightsaber. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yep.
It goes along with a certain fighting style that I really not a big fan of. But whatever. I mean, it is what it is.
I understand.
But yeah, I'm really digging this game so far. So I don't know where we're gonna end up going with it. Like I said, I'm not that far into it. I'm still learning. There's still tutorial stuff popping up. I'm 6 hours in, and it's still popping up with tutorial stuff once in a while. So I'm really either I really suck at the game, and it's like, oh, we'll give you a little bit of help. Here you go. Here's a hint or a tip, or or something like. But this game's huge. I don't know how many hours the main campaign actually is supposed to be. I don't know, what the average gameplay is for it, but I'm really digging it so far. And with everything you've seen so far, Usef, let me ask you this is a two-part question, and they're basically the same question. First off, do you think this is going to be a trilogy? And second, this is probably a dumb question. Would you want to see it be a trilogy?
Yes and yes. So first, answer the first question. Absolutely, I do think it should be. I think it will be a trilogy. Excuse me. And secondly, I think it should be a trilogy, because honestly, the way it's set up for Cal Kestis as your character. See, this was why we figured both you and I wanted to talk a little bit about Fallen Order. So we've ended up talking about Survivor more than Fallen Order.
We have.
Because yeah. So that's fine. That's great because that actually, the initial journey that we've seen in Fallen Order, it was almost too good to be true. If we had said that to begin with, that he would be battling a fallen Jedi, he'd be finding a dark sister from Dathomir. He'd be getting a ship of sorts that would be, you're flying through the sky, which is quite unique, by the way. The shape of which is so elegant and so cool at the same time. And you're taking that vibe with you to eventually battle freaking Inquisitors and then escape Vader himself. Boom after boom after boom. And then you're going. So you and I both finished the novel, right?
Yes.
Which is in between both games. So that is pretty cool because, no spoilers, something happens to every character, including Grease, including, physically and emotionally.
Right.
And then you see the effects in this game. yeah, it's so cool. It's so cool, and I haven't even gone to the meat and potatoes of the game yet, and I still see it, and so I want to see what comes after. So this is, to speak to the basics of storytelling, the beginning part, and then the intermediary part, and then the tertiary section of the story, sort of thing. So this is still the intermediary. Even if there's like a major villain to see, I'm 100% sure that I want to see Kyle go beyond. So about halfway or an hour, half an hour or an hour into the game, you will play this game and you will comment to yourself, whoa, this Cal Kestis guy is no joke. He's like a proper Jedi Knight. I'm controlling a Jedi Knight. In the first game, it's a Padawan. I'm trying to
Oh
learn.
yeah.
I'm trying to understand. Trying to do this. Not in this game. In this game, he's a Jedi Knight, full on, and I can't wait to to grasp my controller and be like, this is a Jedi Master, and
Right.
I think
Get
they're
into a
going to
third
give it to
game.
us. Yes, that's my point.
Yeah.
And in every sense, not just the character and his abilities, but also the story, the wisdom with which the character carries himself. Like in the first game, we kept sort of like second guessing ourselves whenever we customized the character. Sometimes you were like, no, no, I want this color because he's still learning. Purple, no, no, he's nowhere near like Mace Windu. He's nothing like that. So you even cautioned yourself because we play this game with ourselves when we're customizing our own character. We
Mm-hmm.
play it based off of what we see the character as. Not in this game. Nobody's holding back. Everybody's like, yeah, 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 yeah. So he's doing this stuff now. He's chosen this color because he's this. He's a guardian. He's green. He carries the mantle forward. He's yellow. He's this. He's purple because he's amazing with this form because he has more than one stance, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It feels good as well when you're controlling it. Yeah, without ranting too much.
No,
So
you're
we're going off on
no, you're
tangents,
good.
but yeah, I love it.
But one of the things also about this game is it's a canon game, but the customization is
The
like
story's canon. Yeah.
yeah, but the customization is just wild. You get to make your Cal Kestis, like you get to make him how you want him. I mean, and like I'm rocking a full on like black lightsaber with Beskar accents and a white blade. That is sick.
Beautiful.
Like that is so cool to
Sick.
me, right? And so it's you get to have that kind of power over it, and you get to make your Jedi, so it kind of feels like your journey, instead of Cal's, and you're going through this as a Jedi, like you said. The first one, he was very Padawan-ish. He was still unsure of himself. He was still trying to come to terms with the things that happened with his master. He keeps having these flashbacks to Order 66 and what happened with Jarl Tapal, and you finally get that entire story, and you see how young and how scared he was when Order 66 happened, and how he was terrified, and you see even when he was working on Braca as a scrapper, he was still unsure of himself. He was terrified to kind of show what he was, right? And the moment he
Absolutely.
did, whether he knew or not he had been found out, it's time to move, which is any Jedi, but he still had, like, even when Seer and Grease picked him up for the first time, he was,
Right.
what's the going rate on Jedi these days? Like, he thought they were going to turn him in. He just did not trust anybody, and so that seemed to follow out throughout the entire first game up until, he finally comes to terms with everything and he says goodbye to his master. I'm going to honor your teachings and everything like that. And then, reading Jedi Battle Scars and kind of seeing where the group was a couple of years after the first game, and then seeing the events of what went down, why they split up, the thing with Grease that you talked about earlier, it was a really nice touch. And now this game hits the ground running. I mean, it hit the ground running.
Absolutely.
One of
100%.
the comparisons that I saw online, and it was before I actually started the game, and then once I started the game, I was like, they're absolutely right, this is the Arkham City sequel, basically, to Arkham Asylum.
Right.
And it really takes
right.
it to a whole nother level with everything he had in the first game, not because you start the game and he's captured. It has nothing to do with that, but it is kind of reminiscent how you start that game. You know what I mean? Like, but anyway, it's really cool. It's built on itself. It's improved everything, and I'm really, really digging Survivor a lot. I can't wait to finish it, but I'm terrified to finish it because then we're gonna have to wait 4 years for another one.
Exact point. That's how good it is, people. Like, we are generally
I'm taking my time
so
going
happy
through it.
playing it that we're afraid to finish it too fast, too quickly. Yeah.
And so I'm digging it quite a bit. And if you guys haven't picked it up yet, what are you doing? I'm sorry if you're on PC because apparently there's been some serious issues with the PC version with the port. But that's why I've always been a console guy. I've got a buddy that I used to hang out with once in a while when I lived in Ohio. And he's a PC guy through and through, and we're always commenting back and forth on each other's stuff about PC and console because I'm a console guy. It's just simple,
right.
Drop the game and install it, let's go, But he's a PC guy, and he keeps saying, "Man, 120 frames a second." I'm like, why do I want to see my .03 KDR in 120 frames a second? I don't need to see it in that, so. Now, he shared a story the other day about Survivor not working on PC very well, and I'm like, well, I hate to say I told you so, but I'm not having any issues with it. I'm digging it so far. So, sorry if you're on PC and you kind of had a rough launch, is putting it politely, mild. Sorry about the bad launch, but I'm really digging it quite a bit, and I'm hoping that very soon we get an announcement that they are going to be doing a third game. And I really want another novel to take place between the two games. I don't even know what the story is going to be on the third one yet, but I already want another novel and another game. So
I understand the point behind not announcing it already that there's a third game because they don't want to ruin the hype for this game.
Right.
They want us all to experience it fully. But yeah, it would have been great to have a confirmation that there was another game coming.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's where we're at with Fallen Order and Fallen Survivor. Jesus, with Jedi Survivor.
That's exactly where we're at. Fallen Survivor. Yes.
Fallen Survivor. It's such a good game, dude. And it's so easy to get lost.
It's so good, guys. Oh, by the way, there's something else. It builds on Fallen Order in the art scene, so it's beautiful.
Oh yeah,
absolutely beautiful, 100%. If anybody really liked that part of Fallen Order, which a lot of us did, I'm telling you, like, this game keeps it going and then some.
They really pushed.
And I'm not even as far forward as Brian, and we're all
it's
like,
good.
really singing praises.
They really pushed the hardware of this game. They really pushed the console and the PC. I mean, they pushed them to get their absolute max out of them. Yeah, and so, I'm loving it. It's just gorgeous. It's such a gorgeous game. It's so gorgeous. Yeah. And BD is hilarious. You brought up BD a while ago. BD is absolutely delightful in this game. There's, Marin is in the game. And I know you know that.
Of course. Everybody knows that.
Later on in the game, there's a scene.
She's integral, by the way, in the story. She's fantastic.
There's a scene later.
I wouldn't have it any other way. I would be upset if she wasn't.
Right.
That's how serious it is. Yeah.
There's a scene where Cal is sleeping, and she's kind of guarding the entrance to this cave, and BD is standing there, and he did something with her knife. Cleaned it or something with her dagger, and he comes walking up. He's like, burr, burr, and you can see him in the background standing on the floor, and she's looking at it. She's like, "You missed a spot," and his reaction is just his legs spread. And he jumps. He's like, "What?" And he's like looking around, and he's all jittery, and it's cute. I mean, it's BD.
Yeah,
that little droid would run face first into any death, not even think about it. He would just run face first into death. And it's just it's great.
I saw this meme today, and I wanted to screenshot it, but I forgot. I just saw it and immediately wanted to share it with you guys. BD1 is better than BB8. Fight me.
Oh, bar none. I completely agree.
I completely agree. I was about to say, don't hate me, but I agree.
I completely agree. I completely agree.
It's fantastic.
BB8 has his moments that are cute, but
BB8, absolutely.
In Force Awakens, right at the beginning, when he's looking at Rey and he's trying to get her to let him come with him, and he's just sitting there kind of rocking back and forth, and then he kind of looks up, trying to make her feel bad. Like, it's cute, and then when she says, "Come on," and he's like, and goes around, it's fine. But, I'm alone. That's what he said. Exactly. And so it's...
And then connecting with Finn and making a joke, and then doing the lighter thing.
The lighter thing, that was... But the thing is, BD, BB-8 seems like he's the brave droid. He's like another R2, right? He's the brave droid willing to roll into battle and do and help.
Yep.
BD is too, but BD's got more, man, dare I say, like an innocence about him? You know what I mean? Like he's just this cute little, I don't know. But look, there's another character that pops up. You're not there yet. There's another character that pops up that he has an awesome reaction to when he sees this person. And I didn't expect to see this person. It's a spoiler. I'm not going to say anything, but when this person pops up, it's like, what? And then BD has this awesome reaction, and it's really, really cool. You're going to know exactly.
Oh, do we know this person?
I don't want to say too much because you'll guess it. I
That's
know you.
all right.
You're
That's all right.
freaking
You can
smart.
say yes, that's perfect.
All
right.
But yeah, we've seen.
I'll still do it. Okay.
I'm going to say yes. We've seen this person.
Okay.
So, not a member of the Mantis crew, but.
Oh, is it? Okay, no, I've got like 3 people in my mind. Okay,
Oh boy.
Never mind.
We need to. Yeah, I said no spoilers. We got to.
No. Okay,
yeah.
I'm gonna.
You know who I'm talking about?
Hang on. I'm gonna. No, I don't. But I'm gonna write this down. Okay, hang on. I'm just gonna write this down on my phone. I'm gonna write this down. This is gonna be a little bit in between me and myself. I'm gonna.
Okay.
Write this down. And then if this happens, I'm gonna message you and I'll be like, "Did I get it right?" Or I'll figure. I suppose I'll figure it out because I'm gonna write it down. But I'll find out.
Yeah.
If it was the right guess or not, and then
I'm excited to hear.
Like,
yeah.
Oh, I got it wrong. Okay.
You're not too far away from it either, to be honest. I mean, you're.
How do you? I haven't even told you I'm thinking of.
You're like you're right between. You just found the High Republic droid, so I know kind of where you're at. You're not that far from.
Oh, you mean when I'm gonna meet her?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So.
I thought you were talking about not far away from your guess. I was like,
oh no! You're not far away from the spoiler.
Yeah.
So. But
gotcha, okay.
But anyway, so that's kind of where we're at with the Jedi series. I'm digging it, dude, and this is what Star Wars games need to be. This is what they need to be. And remember everybody was crying, saying EA needs to stop making Star Wars games. You remember that? I remember. Pepperidge Farm remembers. I remember and look what we got. So I think we're in for an awesome trilogy. I'm afraid
there's something I'm worried about, that it's setting a bit of a benchmark.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way.
Right.
I'm happy that it is.
Like it's going to peak in this game.
Yes,
that's exactly what I was getting ready to say also. Yep.
Okay. You put it in the exact right words. I was going to
I
was going to go namby-pamby, but I wasn't necessarily say those words, but you were absolutely right. That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about it peaking here and then going downhill after that. But that's not because this game is bad. That's because I love it so much.
See, the way I see it going is because to me, there's a pattern with trilogies, and it's usually the first one's good, the second one's really great, and then the third one isn't as good as the second, but better than the first. And so that's kind of where I see it and going to end up being. So yeah. So anywho, let's get on with this villain bracket, man. Have you chosen 2 villains to go head to head?
So I had 2 on my list.
You have 2,
or actually, 4. Actually, 4 different battles, I should say. But yes, firstly, how are you liking this concept of the villain bracket?
I'm loving it.
Ask you this question.
I'm loving it so far. I'm having an absolute blast with it.
Okay, excellent. That's cool. So if the upcoming category is, so we've got 3 remaining upcoming categories.
Mm-hmm.
One of them being miscellaneous Force users.
Mm-hmm.
The other being military figures, and another being Sith, full-on Sith. And obviously, so the reason, the idea that the way this came about in my mind when I first thought of this was simply how cool these characters are.
Mm-hmm.
Because at one point, you can feel like you don't want to be a certain type of, you don't want to be a Force user, you want to be a bounty hunter.
Right.
So if you watch Mando enough, you'll love him so much that you won't necessarily think of being Ahsoka. You'll think of being Mando in Beskar, dressed up with the blaster, and you've got can't remember the name of the weapon that's on his wrist, like the whistle.
Oh, the whistling birds.
Whistling birds. There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, you see what I mean? Like, it's so cool, right? And then you've got Grogu next to you. You've got the Razor Crest, or if not the Razor Crest, you've got the N1, which is just. It's a 66 Mustang. It is or Charger. It is just that thing. That thing is just
lickety split. Yeah.
Lickety split. It is amazing. It's amazing. And so all of that, it adds creativity and value and real potential to what you could be. So it adds potential to whatever kind of other character that you could be as well. And I'm a huge, uh, not just a villain guy, but also like advocate for us thinking outside the box for our own characters in whatever world we support.
Mm-hmm.
Whether, even if you love, I don't know, even if you love the Tomb Raider world and story, even if you love the Last of Us stories,
Right.
even if you love Uncharted stories, whatever it is, you can fit yourself into this because that's the point of these worlds, that you find yourself in them. So if I was thinking of military figures to go in next, I was thinking of 4 different characters, and you can match them up whichever
Okay.
way you like. How about that?
That's fair.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't have our
All right.
random wheel set up right now. I need to.
Okay. Cool. So you'll choose randomly by yourself
Okay.
2 of these 4 figures. First one being General Hux.
Hey, wait. Before you tell me the 4, do you want me to give you 2 numbers, and then we'll just pit those 2 against each other before I know who they are?
Why not? So pick 2 numbers between 1 through 4.
Let's do 2 and 3.
2 and 3.
2 and
Okay.
3.
I'll
Let's do
tell
2
you
and 3.
who all 4 of them are.
Okay.
And then I'll tell you who 2 and 3 are. Okay.
Okay.
So the first one was General Hux. So it's not him. Second one was Captain Phasma.
Ooh, okay.
So that's 2. So the third one was, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Moff Gideon.
Ooh.
The f-
Okay.
Yeah. And the fourth one was Count Vidian.
Oh. Well, I know who's going to
Yeah,
win
so
between
you
Hux
just-
and Vidian. That's pretty obvious.
You see what I mean? So now
Yeah.
you've got Phasma and Gideon as our next villain bracket.
All right.
2 and 3.
Phasma
and
and
this is
Gideon.
actually pretty cool because, okay, so I know there's a huge bias now because of Mando, but guys, so let's try to give them each their dues. We don't need to speak too much about Gideon, but think of Phasma. Think of how cool she is. Think of stormtrooper outfit, but lieutenant level. Oh, Brian, you've been in the military.
Okay.
Please explain the difference between the term lieutenant and the term lieutenant, just as a term.
Lieutenant?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard of a lieutenant.
Okay. So lieutenant is simply a different way of saying the term lieutenant.
Okay.
However, it's because of the doctrine of military orders and the way it was passed down through the UK and the USA.
Okay.
And historically speaking, a lieutenant in the UK, in Great Britain, would have been primarily, he would have been through an officer's academy, wouldn't necessarily have seen direct action as much as a lieutenant would have seen in the USA.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. And I love that difference in the fact that, so we have the same name of the rank, but I've seen more action than you have. You see what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, so Captain Phasma, that's Captain Phasma to me. She wears the armor, but she's been through crap. She's been through hell.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just badass. Even if you've not read comics and you've just seen the movies, and you've seen her through episode 7 and 8, and when you've seen her sort of really hate Finn when she discovers him, and she, and they fight at the end of 8 or towards the end of 8. It's not because she's an evil person and she thinks he's betrayed her. It's the fact that she thinks he's betrayed her flat out, period.
Mhm.
Boom. Like, listen, we're one army. We're one doctrine. We are one mind. How can you leave us? Period. Don't care what you're looking at. And that is something else. Finding these ranks and finding these commanders and finding these guys. And in episode 7, when she's standing there and say, this is his first offense. It's just this sort of, she's in it. She's the commander. She's the supervisor. She's this, she's that. Yeah, it's worth saying how cool that of a stance that she has and how much presence that she has. What do you think of Phasma? You've read more comic books about her than I have.
So,
and there's a novel for Phasma as well.
I think she is underrated, but at the same time, I think she is criminally underused.
Right.
I think. See, and what's crazy is I've read the Phasma novel, and it honestly wasn't one of my favorite novels. but there were moments in it that I really enjoyed. There were some serious Mad Max moments in there. It was pretty brutal. A guy gets decapitated at one point. Like, I mean, it's a pretty brutal story. But to kind of see where she comes from and kind of her background, and kind of seeing that she's always from the beginning just been out for herself. She's only worried about her well-being and what can benefit her, not necessarily what's good for the Army. Not what's not good for the First Order Navy, but what's good for her. What's in it for her? What can she gain out of this? And even from the get-go, when she first meets Brendel Hux, and they're trying to get off this planet together, and when she decides she's going with them, and she basically betrays her entire people because it benefits her to go learn these, how to fight and to better herself on that front and whatnot. It really says a lot about her character, and it's consistent because when you see her in The Force Awakens, they stuck a blaster under her helmet and said, lower the shields or we're going to blow that bucket off your head. What'd she do? She lowered the shields. I mean, look at even low-level lieutenants in the Empire, in like Mandalorian and whatnot. When they know that they're not getting out of something alive, they bite the Star Wars equivalent of the cyanide pill that's in their mouth, and they end it. Phasma won't do it. Phasma is only in it for herself. And so she's a really complex character on why she does things, the way that she does. But it's, at the same time, it's very, very simple. She's very easy to figure out, if that makes any sense at all. I mean, simple and complex at the same time. It's kind of hard to describe. But as a character, I think it was kind of weird that they focused so much on her, that they are introducing this character in The Force Awakens, and then in Last Jedi just to kill her off. And so I really thought she would have at least made it to the third movie. I get why they did it. It was, it was symbolic killing of, it was Finn defeating his villains and his demons. It was him fighting his demons, facing his demons, and beating them down so that he could be the character we got in Episode 9. And I get it. She represented everything he hated in the First Order. She was the target of his hatred for the First Order. It was her. She
represented the core, didn't she?
Exactly. She represented to him everything that was wrong with the First Order. And for her to die the way she did, that's when Finn actually gained that confidence to become the rebel that he needed to be. Because you look at him in Episode 9, he is so confident, when they're in the Falcon and they're flying through in that first opening scene, and you see that, he's in the gunner seat. And he's just like, element, just what I was thinking, and he's just like, he's doing it because he's confident. He's beat that dark side. And so Phasma represented that for him. And I think she was criminally underused in the trilogy, in the films. Some of the comics were really good. There's a 4-issue comic run that's Captain Phasma that kind of picks up the last part of The Force Awakens after she gets put in the trash compactor. That wasn't a joke Han Solo made. She actually got put into a trash compactor. and it was her escaping Starkiller Base before it exploded. And so it kind of explains how she got back with the First Order, because she's just there. Everybody's like, how'd she get off of Starkiller Base? This is the story that explains it. So Phasma's a really cool character. And I probably rambled on way longer than you thought I was going to. But Phasma, she had potential, and they could still tell some cool Phasma story. Maybe not. I mean, she was criminally underused, and I feel like they killed her off way too soon.
That's very well said. I'll be completely honest, because the reason why I really started this talk on Phasma is because we don't have to talk a lot about Moff Gideon, because if you've even watched
right.
some of the Mandalorian, you
I have something you want. Yeah.
Everything about him, the actor is just so cool. Oh, Gwendolyn, who acts Phasma, she is amazing, by the way. She is absolutely fantastic. But yeah, seriously, like Moff Gideon is just a whole nother level of slick, right? And he's a different vibe, so you might find yourself favoring Phasma simply because of the character type or the path of the whole straightforward soldier villain. She emphasizes that, and she's fantastic in that. Whereas Moff Gideon does something else entirely, But yes, it's so cool. And then obviously we've seen up until the recent finale, Moff Gideon with his uniform, with his Beskar uniform, with the whole Darth Maul loyalist sort of helmet and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's very, very, very cool. Yeah, so there's I'm not I'll be honest, I'll give it a think until tomorrow before I completely
Before you decide.
who I'm voting. Yeah, before I decide who I'm voting for, because for me, if you decide on who's cooler, it's not objective. It's about you. It's
Right.
about if you want to if you want to embody it, if you want to be with this person, if you want to be in a story and have this person complement your story to make it cooler. Yeah, so that's how I've approached it.
Right.
So I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out and I'll vote and we'll talk about it next time. But this is very cool. I really like this. So 2 and 3. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's who it's going to be. It's going to be Phasma and Gideon. So the way this works, if you guys are new to the podcast, because we haven't done the villain bracket in quite a while, I kind of want to wait until, we got back into the swing of things and Usef was able to join me again, because this is his baby. This was his idea. This was all him, man. And so I wanted to make sure that he was here when we started doing it again. So if you're new to this, the way this works is you guys can head over to our YouTube channel or our Facebook page or our Twitter page, and you can vote on which character, not who would win in a fight, but who is the cooler character. That is what we're focused on. We're not really focused on who's going to win in a fight. It's who is cooler to you. And so you can vote on that poll. We'll compile all of the results before next week's episode, and next week we'll say who you guys voted for. Maybe read some of your comments that you leave behind concerning, why you chose who you did, and we'll launch the next poll after that, which I guess is going to be Hux and who'd you say? Hux and Vidian. So,
Yep.
So we will talk about them more next week's episode, but that's the way it works. So head on over and vote on the poll. And if you're listening on Spotify, also you can if you scroll on down where you're listening from, you can vote there as well. The poll will be attached to the episode. So head over there and check that out. Awesome choices this week, man. Those 4, that really good. I'm excited to see where that goes. So
very cool. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into some mailbag questions. We've got 3 questions picked out. 3 really good questions this week. I think I say that every week, but you guys never disappoint with your questions. You guys always send some really good stuff.
We're quite blessed.
We are. The fact that you guys send in these awesome questions, and a lot of times you guys really make us think about stuff. Like there's a couple questions tonight I don't even know if I have an answer to be honest. You know what I mean? So how do you guys get a question on the Star Wars Canon Podcast? You email it to us at starwarscanonpodcast@gmail.com. We'll go through and pick a few out each week and kind of go through and see what you guys want to talk about. So let's get into the first one. Mailbag question number 1 this week comes from Jameson McNeil. And Jameson says, "Hey there, Brian and Usef. Just wanted to say I'm a huge fan of your podcast and content. You guys rule. Thanks for the kind words, man. I really do appreciate it."
Thank you, Jameson.
He goes on to say, "I've been thinking about something since Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett crossed over. In the finale of Book of Boba Fett, Mando gets his head bitten by a Rancor and doesn't even scratch the surface because of the Beskar. If Boba Fett's armor is made of Beskar as well, what put the dent in his helmet? I know there's probably no right answer, but what are your thoughts?" Thanks for the question, Jameson. And this is one I don't think I have an answer to. I know that there was a little, and it's not canon yet. I know there's this cinematic that they made that wasn't fully rendered for Clone Wars, where Cad Bane and Boba Fett basically had a shootout, an old style, draw, and Cad Bane shot his helmet and put the dent in it. But from what we've seen in canon, it seems like Beskar blocks blasters a little better than that. So I know everybody may want to go for the idea that, he knocked his head. Remember Jango Fett? Remember the fight with Jango Fett, Usef, where Jango is fighting Obi-Wan Kenobi?
I know the one you're talking about.
And
absolutely,
there's a part in that fight, and I don't know if they meant to do it or not. There's a part in that fight where Obi-Wan Kenobi headbutts Jango Fett. He headbutts him. And in the immediate next shot, there's a massive dent in Jango Fett's helmet. So either one of 2 things has happened here. Either Jango Fett's armor was not actually made of Beskar, or Obi-Wan Kenobi has got like an adamantium plate or something in his head, because it was absolutely wild. And then they did the little head dinging thing when he's walking into Slave One. in episode 2 when after that fight's
It's
done,
like,
you hear the
yeah,
cling as he walks in, and then the dent is just there later on in the movie. So Usef, which one of these, like, how do you think he got the dent in his helmet? Because I don't really have an answer. There's no canon answer, I don't think, that I know of anyway. Like, he's got a point. Is it just something we're supposed to sweep under the rug and just be like, oh, well, it just looks cool because he's got a dent in it, and the Beskar is just too hard to get the dent out because he repainted his armor and he never got rid of the dent. So what's going on with the Beskar, man?
What I think is that the dent in the helmet he received in a duel with Cad Bane, not with Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Right.
That's what I think, because I've heard that floating around somewhere. I haven't seen it. It wasn't in Clone Wars.
Right.
And he's not in Rebels, but yeah, I mean, well, actually, he does show up in Rebels. No?
Yeah,
he does. But yeah, no. So this particular thing, though, I don't think it's because of Obi-Wan, not because we don't see it specifically, because it's not explicitly shown. So Boba Fett isn't a character that was made too much of in the past.
Mm-hmm.
He was important, but he wasn't like a landmark character. So this is why we haven't seen enough of him. Whereas he's actually so landmark now that it's really important. A question like this is really important. Firstly, it is Beskar, right? It just is, right? Isn't his armor Beskar?
Yes, I believe so.
Yes. Yeah, I believe so. There's nothing to say otherwise. Yeah, we believe he's Beskar. But yeah, so I'm not entirely sure if we should sweep it under a rug, but this requires an investigation, and we should do this. I think try just to look at it, because it is a good question, in that not only is Boba Fett, his path is mapped out. We should be able to figure this out, and the fact that something leaves a dent in his Beskar armor, it's now important because of how important Beskar armor is.
It almost,
because of all the characters that have Beskar armor now, because Mandos and Mandalorians and so on, right?
Right. It almost had to have been a Beskar weapon. It almost had to have been, because
that's yeah.
The armor tells Din Djarin, Beskar's not made for weapons that can pierce Beskar. That's the only thing that I can think of, is that was made by a Beskar weapon. That's the only thing I can think of.
Okay.
So
you can have Beskar, obviously, like hard hacking weapons like swords and spears and such. I don't think you can have Beskar bullets in Star Wars, because Star Wars doesn't really operate on bullets. So blasters don't use bullets; they use heat lasers, right?
Isn't that what the whistling birds are?
Well, the whistling birds
are
Beskar. Bullets in a sense. They're more like, they are Beskar, and they're striking pellets.
Right.
They're not really bullets. And they explode on impact, so they don't just hit something. So the point behind it being like a casing, so it's kind of like a white phosphorus grenade or something like that. So it's just like a casing, and then it goes in, and then it,
Yeah.
But yes, that's a good point, because I mean, we could sit here analyzing Star Wars weapons forever, but I think this is actually what we should be doing, is going off and analyzing this and getting back to Jameson and trying to figure this out. This is very intriguing. This is very, very, very intriguing. I like this question a lot. I don't have a straightforward answer, because
like you
you
said,
know
I
more
don't either.
canon than I do, and I don't think but I do think that it's not from Obi-Wan. I think it's because of Cad Bane, because I've heard it around before from other videos from other Star Wars people. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, I don't have a straightforward answer.
Beskar is basically Star Wars adamantium. Is basically what.
Oh yes.
Is basically what it is, and so
absolutely.
Well, it's like, and I hate to use this movie as a reference, but X-Men Origins, when Wolverine takes the adamantium bullet to the head, even though he's got the adamantium skull, it still causes him to lose his memory, right? Same basic thing. He almost had to have taken a Beskar. There are slug throwers in Star Wars. There are guns that shoot slugs. So he almost had to have taken a Beskar bullet to the head at some point. Or the armorer took one of her Beskar hammers to his helmet or something, I mean, something along those lines. So there's no canon explanation for it yet. And I don't know if they would ever just, do a whole book just to tell the story of how he got the dent in the head. If they're not going to tell us how Maz Kanata got Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, they're not going to tell us how Boba Fett got a dent in his helmet. And so,
right.
And so I think it's one of those things that we just, like, I hate to say it, Usef, I hate to say it. I think we have to sweep it under the rug for right now. I think it's just one of those things that, because even if they release that video of Cad Bane shooting the helmet, right? Because the way I've seen the animation, the way it happened was they had their shootout, and they both fall back, and then Boba Fett's helmet hits the ground, and it kind of rolls in front of the camera, and the dent is there with the glowing spot smoking. But no blaster can do that, right? So the only thing I can think of is it had to be some kind of Beskar weapon to do it. It's the only thing that makes sense. So that I hope that answers your question, Jameson. I know it doesn't, but I hope it does. Because, like I said, I had no.
I know it doesn't, but I hope. It does.
Yeah, I know. I had no answer for that one whatsoever, and so but it was a good question. I thought it was something that would at least be fun to kind of kick around and talk about a little bit and whatnot.
It's a different angle. It's a different kind of question.
It is.
Not a lot of people ask this kind of question.
And these are the questions we like. We like the ones where you guys make us think and really try to figure out
100%.
what's going on.
Otherwise, there's nothing really to talk about.
Right.
100%.
Right. So thanks for sending in the question, Jameson. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. What do you guys think? How did Fett get that dent? Are you still subscribing to the idea that it was Cad Bane? Do you think it could have been something else? Let us know. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Question number 2 this week comes from the Bendu, simply signed the Bendu. And the Bendu says, first of all, I love you guys and everything you do. You have a unique outlook on many things, and that's one of the many reasons I gravitate to your channel. Thanks for everything you do. Thank you for the kind words. We do appreciate it very much. I just finished reading Leia, Princess of Alderaan, and wow, what a book. It was the first Claudia Gray novel I've read, and now I want to read them all. There's a scene where Leia meets Captain Panaka, but now he's an Imperial Moff. He realizes that Leia looks exactly like Padme and is put off by it, not knowing that she is actually Leia's daughter. If he could see it, why didn't Vader see it in A New Hope? Thanks for the question. Usef, I'm going to let you take this one, man. This is an interesting question. You know, especially considering, I want you to keep in mind, too, with the comic books, with Vader working with the handmaidens and everything that kind of has gone down with him talking with, Sabe and all the other handmaidens, keep in mind that is a story arc. So why didn't Vader see it if somebody as removed as Captain Panaka could?
All right, there's a lot to unpack here, and hey, you're going to help me unpack this because you're better at this than I am.
Okay.
Firstly, you just are. So the first thing is, Vader is Vader. Vader is Anakin turned to Vader, and the feeling that he has for Padme is so strong, the love that he has. However, the fact that he's turned to the dark side and how blinded he is by the dark side makes him oblivious to the fact that Padme has had his children. That's just fact, because he turns into Vader and he can't feel the children. He feels Padme is not of this world, is of this galaxy anymore. He feels that she's missing. In fact, when he's asking Sidious, where is Padme? Before he asks him, he's constantly reaching out through the Force trying to feel her, and he can't feel her. She's done. She's dead. She's gone. She's not even like on another planet. She's nowhere to be felt. That's why he asks him this question. And then when Sidious says, it seems that in your anger, you killed her, he reconfirms this, and that he can't feel her.
I like how you just seamlessly slipped into Palpatine there. That was nice. That was very
I'm such a villain anyway.
It was so nice.
Yeah, it's in me. It's always been in me. You know how it is.
Sorry, it was very smooth. It was very smooth how you did it. It was very good.
I appreciate it. I'll do it again if you like. But yeah, so yes, when Sidious confirms, that Vader reaches out again, and that's in the comics, that he reaches out again for Padme, and he realizes the whole. So I personally, what's it called? I compare this to if you're on a couch or in the bed and you're reaching out to find remote control and it's not there, but then you reach out for it again to confirm that there's no hope. You can't turn it off now. You know what I mean? That sort of hopelessness feeling. I know It's such a silly analogy, but that's how it literally.
Oh man, I have to get up. I have to get up and walk over and get it.
Or the batteries are dead, or whatever it is. But yes, that's exactly the feelings. And he's reaching out emotionally. So he's done. He's absolutely done. So there is a story which Brian has alluded to. He's saying, there's a story where Vader is confronting someone who's fighting the Empire, and he feels something that he can't really put his finger on it. He's not entirely sure what it is. And then he sees a slender body in front of him, and because she's got hair, female hair, pointing a gun at him, and then she's running through the vents, and then all of a sudden she comes into the light, and he's stabled her in there, like he's stuck her in there with the Force, and then she comes to the light, he's like completely shocked, and he stops, and he sees Padme in front of him. That's not Padme. That's one of her handmaidens. But the feeling that he gets is an absolute 100% rush back, and he doubts himself instantly. There's 1,000 things going through his mind. 1,000 things going through his mind. The most immediate thing is not happiness that he's seeing Padme again. It's doubt in himself that he did not feel her.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing that comes through his mind. Not happiness or anything that he's seen Padme. The first thing that comes through his mind is like, what is this? What am I seeing? Why haven't I felt this before? And immediately he notices, before he can figure out the rest of his thoughts, he notices, oh, that's not Padme. But it takes him that entire cycle of thought to think that way. Am I right, Brian?
Oh, yeah. I would assume so. It makes sense based off everything you just said. That would make total sense. It would.
Yeah. So that reasoning there, him being the magnificent Sith Lord that he's turned out to be.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is basically why he didn't feel Leia. Because basically in A New Hope, first time we see Darth Vader, he comes on and commandeers Leia's ship, or boards it, and he is interrogating her abusively, let's say that. And how does he not know that this person is his freaking daughter?
Yeah.
So there's many different things behind this. Firstly, not only does he have no idea, not even the slightest inclination that he has a daughter or that she's out there, but Leia doesn't have the slightest idea that he might be her father in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
If you are strong with the Force, we've seen this in Clone Wars. I've seen this in Clone Wars, and I might be wrong because a lot of my reasoning depends on this, if I'm honest, Brian. So you tell me if I'm wrong or not.
Okay.
If you're strong with the Force and you reach out in the Force, so if you're a Jedi Master or Knight, you can sense, you, Brian, if you're strong with the Force and young old Usef is over here on planet Egypt and you're coming over to visit or whatever, and you come over and you sense something, you're like, I sense something. But then, so you might not necessarily sense Usef. Even if Usef is strong with the Force, Usef doesn't reach out with the Force. Usef doesn't express it. Usef doesn't know that he's strong with the Force. So you might not notice it. And the reason why, I'll give you an example. Qui-Gon Jinn noticed Anakin's strength with the Force after his pod race, not before. And that's when he asked for his midichlorians, his midichlorian count, his blood sample, and so on.
I think the midichlorian count was before.
Was it before?
I think it
so
was.
he sensed that before Anakin actually displayed anything with the Force?
Right, he could sense it, yeah.
Okay, so this is the thing. This is my question now, actually, because this was part of my reasoning to my reasoning for the answer. What I was going to say was he couldn't have felt that Leia was even remotely strong with the Force because Leia had never used the Force. But then clearly Anakin had. He could sense the future. When he was speaking to his mother, to Anakin's mother, to Shmi, and he was saying he can sense the future. That's that's a Jedi trait, is what he says. And another reason why. So one of the other reasons why we have to compare Vader's sensing of Leia is we have to look at Vader's sensing of Luke as well. So Vader didn't sense Luke either. the only time Vader sensed Luke was when Luke reached out with the Force, and Obi-Wan reached out to Luke when Luke was in his X-Wing going to destroy the first Death Star. Vader just immediately says right there, this one is strong with the Force, or something along those lines, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's when he senses something's up. And then in Empire Strikes Back, we know that Sidious calls Vader, and Vader goes, move the ship out of the asteroid field and get a clear signal or something. And then Sidious goes in, we have a disturbance in the Force. I have no doubt that this new rebel, new enemy is the offspring of Anakin Skywalker. And Vader can't believe it. Vader doesn't. How can this be? He doesn't even understand. He can't comprehend it. So that X-Wing, that guy that I was chasing, not a few days or weeks before, was. Are you kidding me? That's my son. He can't sense that, even though the Emperor has told him flat out, that's him. And then he says, search your feelings, Vader. You know it to be true, sort of thing. So that, even if I can sense you with the Force that you're reaching out, it is not necessarily with a signature to know where that comes from. I can't really tie that down somewhere. So this was a very long explanation, which may
No,
be
you're
flawed, of whether or not you could potentially use the Force to reach out and find out if you're related to that person, or if that person comes from a specific origin, etc. Yeah. So the reasoning, which we had mentioned, was okay. Firstly, if I was strong with the Force, could I sense that somebody else had the Force, even if they didn't use it? And technically, we may have seen, because of Qui-Gon Jinn and Anakin, and potentially other Force users. Actually, you may have Qui-Gon may have sensed Anakin, even though he didn't use the Force in front of him. He never Force pushed anything. He never tried to manipulate anything in front of him, but he still felt that he was strong with the Force. There's something about this boy, Obi-Wan. But at the same time, we see Vader speak to Sidious about Luke. If he speaks to Sidious about Luke, and he has to have this pointed out to him, that actually, Vader, did you miss this thing, this person? And how did Sidious know in the first place that this was Luke Skywalker? Did he have a spy?
I think, if I remember right, I don't remember the story. There's a story in From a Certain Point of View Empire, that I think tells how. I don't remember how he remembered knowing, though, how he found out, but I think they tell that story.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. I don't want to lie to you, but I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure they told that story.
No, but I mean, so the initial short answer for this question is that he couldn't have felt Leia because he didn't even feel Luke. And why couldn't he feel either of them? He was just so blinded. He was just so dumbstruck by the hatred that he had. He was blinded by it. He was blinded. He couldn't think straight. He couldn't calculate properly. And he had already blocked this to one side. And Leia and Luke weren't reaching out either. Kind of like how, I mean, Luke Skywalker in episode 7 and 8 blocked himself off from the Force. Even Rey couldn't feel him. She was standing right next to him. She couldn't feel him. Okay, so he's blocked himself off purposefully. So what if you don't even know that you have the Force and you don't even use it? Potentially similar.
See, Palpatine was doing that, though, too, throughout the entire prequel trilogy.
Absolutely,
he was shielding himself.
So that the entire Jedi, he was standing right within the Jedi Council, or not within them, but they were standing around him, and they didn't even sense it. Yeah.
So, do you think there's any chance he ever looked at Leia and was like, just visually, you know what I mean? Because that's what Panaka saw, right? Was that she reminded him so much of Padme? Do you think that could have? Yeah. Do you think Vader ever looked at her once and was like, "You remind me of somebody"?
I don't think that Vader spent enough time around Leia to think that way.
Okay.
And I think that Vader, in his anger or demented sense of targeting victims, because he was an evil bastard, he would have put Leia in a specific frame of mind where he wouldn't have seen her with the same strength that he saw Padme. And Vader being Vader, sure, Padme would always have been his weak link, but he would have tried his utmost to put Padme aside, especially after that encounter with one of her handmaidens.
Mm-hmm.
That he would have been like, yeah, we need to push these sort of self-righteous, amazing, bold women to one side and just not really think of those as something important anymore.
Right.
And that's very, very, very sad because that's what he fell in love with in the first place. But yes, that's what I think happened.
Let me ask you this. So, do you think in Return of the Jedi, right? Because when Luke and Vader are having their duel in the Emperor's throne room, which, by the way, my favorite lightsaber duel in the entire saga is that it's just the emotion behind it. It's father versus son. You know what I mean? Like, and they're both on basically equal ground at this point.
Absolutely amazing.
And so that moment when Luke is hiding underneath the platform and Vader is looking for him, says, "You cannot hide forever, Luke," right? So that is my favorite Vader quote of all time. Just in case anybody was wondering, that is my absolute favorite. That whole monologue, that "give yourself to the dark side," that entire monologue was my favorite Vader line ever.
It is amazing.
When he tells Luke the whole, when he says, if you will not turn to, or when he realizes that he has a sister, he's like, "Your sister, your thoughts have now betrayed her too." When he realized that Luke had a sister and who it was, do you think, like, just for a second, he was like, "Son of a," like, like,
it's
I had
her,
her
that woman,
there, like, multiple times in A New Hope, in The Empire Strikes Back, they were in the carbon freezing chamber together. You know what I mean? Like,
I think he was. I think he realizes. Yep.
You think he sees
because he can't. Yeah, I do, because he can't read his mind and think, "Oh yeah, he has a sister," without understanding who she is.
Who, right?
Because it's a feeling,
right?
Yeah, I think so. Especially in that he's come across her before.
Mm-hmm.
And so Leia, when Luke, before this fight with Darth Vader, he speaks to Leia and he says, "My sister has it." He explains to her that he has the Force. What is the Force? It's so and so. And she's like, I don't understand. What are you talking about? And he says, "My sister has it." And she looks away and she's like, "I know. I think I've always known." And so that means that she's started having feelings as well, right? Like reaching out with the Force, or feeling of sorts, or some sort of
right?
Maybe
connection,
yeah, exactly, connection. Because maybe feeling familiar is too strong a word, but a connection is there. Yes. I love this conversation, by the way. I know we're taking a little bit too long on this, but because this conversation is building on the Force, and I just love the Force, which makes Star Wars so unique. But yeah.
Here's another
so
thing to consider too, and it's kind of getting away from what we're talking about, but it's something. I mean, I think it has a lot to do with the conversation. Luke always gets the credit for turning Vader back to the dark, or to the light side. Luke's always the one that gets the credit for that. Luke's the one that turned him back. Nobody can turn him back but Luke.
Even though Vader says it outright.
Yeah.
Your sister, right. And that's
do you
something
think
to
she
consider.
had something to do with it too?
I think maybe not willingly, because she doesn't really think about it. Even in Bloodline, even in the novels, whenever you look at Leia's narration, her thoughts, and she thinks back to Vader, they're always very cold thoughts.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, the narration is
even in The Princess and the Scoundrel, she flat, "I hate you," like, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So maybe not. She didn't do something willingly. But I think Vader, knowing that he has a son and a daughter, not just a son who's in front of him that he might potentially turn, might potentially not, that da-da-da. But he also has a daughter that he wants to protect. I mean, Brian, you have a kid now, man. So, I mean, if any person who has kids will answer differently and say, "Yeah, of course it fucking changes you."
Right.
Sorry for the F-bomb, but yes.
No,
so yeah,
good.
that's the thing, right? So it would have changed him. He would have thought, "Oh, crap." Not in a bad way, just in a gripping reality sense way. Especially when Sidious was torturing Luke and sort of about to finish Luke off. Yeah, and he's thinking through his head, Vader. There's no specific narration through this specific moment, which I'm explaining, but he's not just thinking about Luke. He's probably also thinking about Leia.
Yeah, because
Right.
even once he comes back to the light, he tells Luke, "Tell your sister you were right about me." And
Exactly.
so he knows who it is.
He
I mean,
wants his kids.
yeah,
Yeah.
he wants them to
exactly.
move on. So I thought it was a great question. I really did. I don't know why he didn't like visually see Padme and Leia the same way other people did.
I do think that
even in
Panaka had a lot more FaceTime
that with Padme,
with Leia though.
well, you
With
mean with
Leia,
Leia face to face?
with both
You're
Padme
right.
and Leia.
You're
Yeah.
right.
So he would have had time, and he would have interacted. He would have heard if she has. I don't know. Like when we, I don't know, like just little tidbits and like effects in your speech or whatever,
Right.
impressions,
Little ticks.
glances,
Yeah.
looks, intensity. Yeah, exactly. He would have noticed those things, so he would have had time. He would have gone back and forth. Panaka spoke to Padme a
Right.
lot, and Panaka was Moff
Mm-hmm.
of Naboo under Sidious, so he would have seen not just Naboo, but the entire system, right? So
Right.
Naboo and a few other planets, wasn't he? Yeah, he would have experienced and seen Leia quite a bit, like through different scenarios and situations growing up, and she was just about getting into her stride and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he would have seen that much more than Vader did, I would
Yeah.
assume.
I think you're right. Yeah. So
Mm.
there's been no explanation as to why he didn't see it, but I think it's one of those things like, we were just talking about. There's different aspects of it that I think were there, but I don't necessarily think that he was just like, you look like my dead wife. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that was how it went. So, but anyway, thanks for the question. Do appreciate it. And
It's an
thanks.
amazing question.
A great
Fantastic.
question.
Absolutely fantastic.
It's definitely
Never thought about that.
It's definitely something that's fun to think about. So, thanks for sending in the question. Do appreciate it. And the final question this week. We've been going an hour and a half, man. It's good for Star Wars Day. So, the third and final question this week comes from Kimberly Shan. Sean, if I butcher your name, I'm truly sorry. I'm assuming it's Shan. And Kimberly writes in and says, "Hello there, Usef and Brian. Hello. I was wondering if you'd seen the news that Kathleen Kennedy announced that the release dates for the films will be spaced out now instead of shooting for one film a year, and if so, what are your thoughts, good or bad? Keep doing what you're doing and never stop." Thanks for the kind words. And yes, so Kathleen Kennedy came out not too long ago saying that she was that Lucasfilm was going to be slowing down the release of films, not necessarily trying to shoot for release dates that they've already talked to shareholders about or anything like that, and trying to get the movies right before they put them out. Usef, there's a lot to this, right? Like I'm torn because I'm so used to, except for the last 4 years, I was so used to a Star Wars movie a year. For what, 5 years running? 5 years in a row, we had a Star Wars movie every year, and now we're gonna get to a point. No, and don't get me wrong, I'm really glad that they're gonna get the movies right before they release them. I'm really, really glad they're doing that. But it shouldn't take a whole lot of extra time to be able to do that. You know what I mean? At least maybe not in my opinion. I don't make movies for a living, so I don't know. I'm ignorant. You know what I mean? I'm ignorant of the process. So
completely understand. Yeah.
So I was so sure that we were going to be moving towards 2 films a year. I was so cocksure that we were going to be moving to 2 films a year, and now they've gone the complete opposite direction, and they're just going to slow them down. We'll get a movie every 2, 3, 4 years. What do you think of this? Do you think this is a good thing to be doing quality over quantity? And man, what are we going to do for 3 years at a time between movies?
I personally think that quality over quantity is the way to go because of the backlash that they've seen. I think that we're already getting maybe a movie a year the way Mando's going. Not specifically just Mando, but Andor and Mando. We can't forget that we're getting a proper season of many episodes, an hour each episode. It's kind of like a movie.
Mm.
That's one thing to consider, that there is content being pumped out. It is not conventional, not anymore, because it's not movies per se. But in terms of how the question is structured about what Kathleen Kennedy has announced, something is better than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to actually hear that there's movies coming out. and that they're taking their time. I am worried that we have hit in Star Wars movies a a fruit-like element to it, where it ripens and then it's spoiled. So now
Mm-hmm.
we have to replant it all over again and wait for the tree
To regrow, right?
to completely regrow from scratch, mind you, because this is completely from scratch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to wait for the tangerines to pop out of the tree, and then we got to pluck them, and then we got to make sure that they're sweet enough. I'm worried that that this is how long that this is a process and we have to undertake it no matter what it takes. I'm just happy that we're getting something. So firstly, what we're getting currently is content. It's not traditional, it's not movies, it's not something in a brand new direction, but it is a direction that we all like. And at the same time, we've already been promised movies in a couple of new directions, but if they're taking their time doing it, it's better than nothing. So I'm cautiously optimistic. Something is better than nothing. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
happy about it. I would have loved to have this years ago, right? But everything has a cost. Learning has a cost. You can't, over in this part of the world, we have a saying in Arabic which just goes basically, nobody learns for free. It always costs you something.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all learning this for storytelling, and nobody's learning it more than Lucasfilm and Disney. You can have a good long-term story panned out. Marvel showed this and it was amazing. I don't like bringing up Marvel every single time I talk about Star Wars, but it's just an easy analogy to bring up
Right.
simply because of how well it was planned out years in advance. I
And
love
they're
you
both owned by the
3000.
same people. So, so
Absolutely, exactly.
it's
I
a
love you
good
3000, right?
comparison. Yeah.
3,000 minutes of movies
Mm-hmm.
planned out, done, dusted, filmed, produced, and just brilliant. And then you look at Star Wars and you say 7, 8, 9, oh my god. And then you're so upset. How could you, who have done 3,000 movies
Mm-hmm.
in one storyline, then go to a parallel business which is also yours, owned by the same one as you just said, and say, I'm going to give each movie to a different writer? What on earth are you doing? Yeah. It's baffling. So this is why I'm cautiously optimistic, and I'm quite happy to see what Kathleen Kennedy has said about these movies.
Mm-hmm. I I think overall it's going to be a good thing for Star Wars. Like you
Okay.
said, maybe it's a good idea for us to take a step back and maybe go back to the drawing board and start fresh. I didn't really think of it that way, but I think you might be onto something there. The fact that they, let's say, and obviously they're not using these terms, but let's say, hey, phase one of Star Wars, films didn't work. You know,
Right.
TV, we hit that out of the park. Films didn't work. And so I think maybe taking the break and waiting to get each movie right before putting them out, that's good. Quantity, or quality over quantity. All for that. But at the same time, I'm afraid that it's going to take 9
Ages.
years to get 3 more movies out.
I understand.
But the
Completely
thing
understand.
is, you're right. They're pumping out content. It's not like we're not getting anything Star Wars. Even with Mando, we got 8 episodes, and it basically came out to the equivalent of like 2 or 3 movies. And so yeah, no, you're right. We're still getting content. We're getting how many novels? Jesus, like we're getting so much stuff. We've got Ahsoka coming up. We've got Skeleton Crew coming up. We've got The Acolyte coming. There's good stories coming down the pipeline. We're getting Andor season 2. Mando season 4. We're getting this Dave Filoni crossover movie. Like, Jesus, yes. Like,
What I do expect, actually, so if you and I were to specifically narrow this down, we got so if we were to highlight the blockbuster element,
mm-hmm,
right? So like the really 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 strong stuff of Star Wars right now is Mandoverse, right?
right,
It's been so successful that it gave them the breathing room they did to say, let's work on the other stuff quietly
right.
and let's not announce it yet until we know. But in the meantime, hey, Filoni and Favreau, keep doing what you're doing, put us on a path. And that path is not just Mando, it's also Ahsoka.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a movie culmination over there, there's Boba Fett, and so on, right?
Right. Right.
So it gave them the breathing room to go, okay, let's also think about High Republic. Let's also keep going with Acolyte.
Mm-hmm.
Let's also potentially do something in the sequel trilogy because we
Right.
can't stop that. There's no point. We invested so much money, or it might not be a money thing, but regardless, okay, you know,
Right.
we've done this, we've invested, we've written a story here, and people like it. People do like it. There are people that love it, and I like it. I don't love it, but I like it. I like Ray. I do. I like Ray. I like Finn. I like where it could go, and I want to see where it might go. So if there's a story in there, give it to me, because I want more Star Wars. And so they've written it. They wouldn't here. Oh, by the way, I wanted to ask you this question as
Yeah.
soon as I saw this question. I'm sorry, I had this written down and I can't believe I didn't see it.
No, no worries.
Do you think that they have written, even if it's just in principle, before getting Ray to step out on the Star Wars Celebration set, podium, whatever it was? Do you think they've written the story for the next film or for the next era of post sequel trilogy?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, exactly.
It's
right?
penned. It's
I
on
think
paper.
so too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. I
She
think
said
they know what
she
it is.
said
Yeah.
that script is going to be turned in by the end of May, but
Yeah,
the story it's done.
it's done.
Yeah.
Exactly. That is so people can if you haven't heard it, you need to know this that they've not just written the story, they've signed off on it,
Right.
on a direction, on a villain, on a hero, on the path the hero takes, potential disciples, potential room for additional characters. You know, when you're at this stage in the story, you might not say there's specifically two sidekicks. You might not. If you say that there are two, you could say, oh, there's one, but room for two, room for three, whatever it is. They've done it. Boom. They've signed off on it. They've stamped it. That's in there and it's in the works. And Race potentially heard it and signed off on it as well. That's why she stepped up on the podium and she's like, okay, I'm in. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been up on there. It's not
Right.
contractual. She doesn't have to come up on there. If she refuses, she refuses.
She
Boom,
really
done.
needed a job though. She got to keep that in mind.
She could. So here's the thing. She really needed a job, but okay, I can be a little bit cynical here. She really needed a job, but she's not going to get any job better than this one.
Right.
Is she? Not just her. Anyone. Are you kidding? What if you and I were aspiring actors? We would kill to be in Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
What if we were going to be in Andor? We know it's only going to be 2 or 3 seasons. That's it. Boom. And it's a limited story. Whereas the sequel trilogy, it's endless. It can do everything.
Mhm.
There's movies, there's video games, there's a whole new direction. It's not limited in a specific space within the Star Wars universe.
Right.
It's still going. So she's actually quite fortunate. I wish her all the best. She's a fantastic actress. She was really cool. She was really funny. She was really, yeah, I wish her all the luck. Her, Finn, the entire shebang, everyone.
Here's something to consider too that I was just kind of my mind was drifting a little bit. Even though they're just going to release movies when they're ready, that doesn't mean we're going to go several years at a time without a film if they get enough projects in development. There's no reason why they couldn't, have 4 or 5 movies going at once.
Have a more regular schedule, yeah.
Right. And take the time to polish each one of those films before you put it out, and you could have 4, 5, 6 movies working at a time. How many does Marvel usually have at a time? 3, and as soon as they finish, the one at the beginning, they start the next one. So there's always, there's steps. There's always one at the beginning, one in the middle, and one at the end as they go, and they're stepping. Why couldn't they, do something along those lines? I think Lucasfilm is trying to learn from some of the mistakes they know they've made in the past, and I think, the more you talk about it and the more I think about it, I think this is a step in the right direction, and I definitely think that this is what they should be doing. So
it makes me happy. It does.
Oh yeah.
I like talking about it because it makes me highly anticipate the coming phases, the coming movies, the coming projects. I'm really excited to start reading High Republic and really go forward there, and then these movies in these different directions and the content we're already getting. No, Lucasfilm is it's not going anywhere anytime soon. It's on the contrary, it's coming real hard, real fast.
Yeah.
I think so.
Oh,
And
yeah.
all of a sudden, we'll be looking back for like, this is so much content. I don't know where to keep going. I don't know where to begin. I
Yeah.
think that we might be like that pretty soon. I'm
We're
like
getting
that
there.
right now with
Yeah.
Marvel, and I've already stopped. Like, I'm not even following Marvel every single day anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just following the big stuff, whatever it is, and
Yeah.
having friends explain it to me, things like that, because I'm trying to focus on Lucasfilm, on everything Star Wars. I think at one point we are gonna have to do this on this podcast where we just sit down and answer questions about, okay, here's how you get into Star Wars again.
Mhm.
Here's where did you leave? Somebody's gonna message in. Here's where I left it, and all of a sudden I'm confused, and we try to reconnect the gaps. I think
Right.
that actually, you know what I mean? I really think that might happen a year or two from now.
Yeah. Speaking of which,
Yeah.
before we close out for the night, I was going to say, there is a new book that's out that just came out, I think last week. It is Star Wars Timelines. I think the guys all got their hands on a copy. I know Steven did. Did JG get it? I don't remember if JG said he got it or not. Dude, I'm not usually big on reference books. I don't usually get reference books at all. This is
It
the
looks
first.
beautiful.
Oh, it's gorgeous, and this is the first one I bought, and mainly because of we try to keep everything chronological for the podcast, and so I was like, I need to get this book. I need to see what's going. Holy crap, dude! What a reference book! This thing is wild.
Nice.
There's already they're very vague, talking about the Dawn of the Jedi stuff and the Old Republic, as they should be, right? Because we'll probably get a new issue of this book every, few years. But this thing is wild. If you guys haven't picked up this book yet, go get this book. This thing is it's a really good companion to have with your canon collection. It is so cool. I put it on the shelf with my books. It's a huge book. All the reference books are. So I had to lay it sideways on top of some of my novels to get it up there. But I'm keeping it with my novels. And honestly, I'm probably going to use it to try to update the timeline that we have on 1138productions.com and try to get that hammered back out the way it needs to be. And because there's some things that, you can read it all day long, but you cannot pinpoint where it goes on the timeline. There's no references in it anywhere or anything like that. So if you guys, I just wanted to throw that in there real quick before we end it for the night, but definitely go check out that book. It's worth the buy. It really is. So
Sounds amazing. Yeah, because obviously that it when you pinpoint it, then you can see where it is alongside other novels, which sure,
Right.
it's in the same era. Actually, if you know that this is before, this is after, it gives you so much better perspective.
yeah, it does. And they do everything: comics, novels, the films, the TV shows. Everything is laid out in the video games.
Right.
Everything. Jedi Fallen Order is like a 4-page spread. Like, there's so much in there about it. And the entire book has got one massive timeline going across from left to right, and it's got all these different events that are on it and everything. Even big births and deaths.
See, it's not sold over here in this country.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
There's somebody got his hands over it in Dubai or Abu Dhabi.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna have to try to get a friend to get it over for me because I can't. This can't be an audiobook. I have to.
No, you have to physically sit and you can't.
Exactly.
I know you can get it on Kindle also. I noticed you can get it on Kindle, and I'm like, no, this is not a Kindle
that's
book.
cool.
This is one you actually have to have the actual. And so but there was one thing, dude. I'm so mad. There was one thing in it that I really wanted to see if they explained, and they didn't. There's a whole 2-page spread in there about the Skywalker lightsaber, from Anakin creating it, after episode 2, all the way to where Rey buries them on Tatooine. It's the entire lifetime of it. And when it gets to the point of where Luke loses it, I was like, I want to see if they say in here how Maz Kanata got the lightsaber.
And they don't?
And they don't. Even the window of where it happened is so... Because they're like, it was approximately 4
I thought
ABY...
we were going to get this eventually.
No, it was... Dude, and check this out. So the window was... It even says in the book, it was approximately between 4 ABY and 34 ABY. That's a huge window. That's a 30-year window. It was approximately within somewhere in this 30 years.
We have to... we have to get this, by the way. We do actually have to figure out or get this story.
The story.
How did Maz Kanata get the lightsaber?
Man, that's a whole nother episode because I'm mad about it because you can't
It's so
tease
important.
a story like that. and then never answer it. Never. We do not have an answer to it at this point. All it says is that it was recovered from Cloud City and then somehow ended up in Maz Kanata's possession. That's what it says. Somehow. Somehow Luke's lightsaber returned, and we have no idea how it happened. You know what I mean? Like, somehow Palpatine returned, somehow Luke Skywalker's lightsaber returned.
As far as Star Wars artifacts that are important for the story go, this is huge.
That's huge.
This is important. It impacts the story in so many ways. So
yeah.
We can't just glaze over this.
Right. So, anyway, not to beat a dead horse, go check out that book if you guys haven't already. It's definitely worth picking up. It's going to help you keep all your canon stuff in chronological order. I guarantee it. And so I'm going to go through and probably tweak some stuff on our timeline with it. I mean, it's pretty detailed, man. So definitely go check it out. Man, before we sign off for the night, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I wanted to make sure that people try to get in touch with us as much as they can to tell us what it is they want to see from us. Anything else in particular, like whether you want us to discuss not just the villain bracket, if you've got any other idea for other bracket, if you've got an idea for anything that you want to talk about, whether that's comics, whether that's novels, whether that's films, whether that's new concepts, not just questions, any topic, honestly, because we do this because we love Star Wars and we know you guys love Star Wars too. So let's talk about something that we all love together.
Absolutely. All right. Well, hey, guys, it's been a great episode this week. We hope you guys have an awesome May the 4th. We hope it was a great one for you. And here's to another year of Star Wars content. Hopefully I'm changing my eating habits enough to be able to survive another year of Star Wars, because I got to be around for these movies, man. You know, I'll tell you this. I keep making the joke that I've changed my eating habits so that I'm here for these Star Wars movies. When my son was born, I quit smoking. Well, I quit smoking before my son was born, but I quit smoking so that I could be around for in case I ever did have kids. You know what I mean? And so I quit smoking for my son, but I didn't change my eating habits for him. I changed my eating habits for Star Wars. Like, if that tells you anything. So hopefully we get another year, and hopefully a year from now we'll be talking about some cool announcements. So, guys, thanks for joining us this week, and until next time, this is Brian signing off. And may the Force be with you guys.
See you guys. May the Force be with you.
You've just been listening to the latest episode of the Star Wars Canon Podcast. I'm Brian Miller, joined by my co-host, Usef Waly. You can stream new episodes of the podcast every Saturday night at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Anchor.fm, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so at patreon.com/1138productions. Be sure to like and subscribe on whichever platform you're listening in on. If you'd like to get a question on the show, you can send it in to us at starwarscanonpodcast@gmail.com. Until next week, keep it civil, and may the Force be with you.